Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I am the NFL genius, Gene Walzak, and in the upper left corner, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College, Cottrell. How you feeling tonight, brother?
Feeling all right, got a bunch to get into, a little disappointed. My team's at home now, talking NFL playoffs, but I guess I'm ready for the rest of the show though.
In the upper right corner, I got Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, rocking the new quarter zip, CSA approved. How you feeling,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Shallcross?
Good. I'm a little down as well as Cottrell because my team as well got, piped on national TV on Monday night. So it is, a little bit of a downtrodden mood for the show for playoff wise. Everybody's teams are done already. So, but we're still here, doing our thing.
I'm not down at all. Not upset at all. I'm not. I'm happy. Let me tell you why I'm happy. Because if you don't have the right people, you're going to stop tricking yourself to believe that you do. If they won that playoff game and put together a good game and then lost a close game to Detroit, we wouldn't be making changes. At minimum, tomorrow you're going to see that Brian Johnson, Sean Desai, and Matt Patricia have been let go. At absolute minimum. So, I'm happy about it. I'm not going to argue with you. I think that, what you got?
I was going to say, out of curiosity, I think Desai is a no-brainer. I think Brian Johnson's also a no-brainer. But the slim chance they bring back Brian Johnson, how would you view that?
So if they keep Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson would have to be a quarterback's coach when they're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. If the Eagles do not make a change on the offensive side of the ball, I will actively root against them the entire year next year. Actively root against them. That's not a joke. Guys, I'm not even trying to be smart when I say this. I don't think that Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni understand what blitz beaters are. And that's like technical, like high school, bro. When you played high school football, you were taught that if a team is blitzing, run away from the defenders and create space. The worst routes that you can run for a blitz are little dig routes, stop routes, out routes. They're terrible because the cornerbacks get to react to the only motion that you're going to get. That's it. You understand? That's all they're going to get. They don't have to react to a secondary motion. Dude, run a friggin' slant. Run away. You have a guy that runs a 4.3 40 on your team. They're running cover zero. This is their time to shine, Quez. Run across the field. I was so embarrassed watching that offense play football. Bro, the worst part of that game, and we'll get into that game, we're getting into everything, but the worst part of that game was the Eagles ran up 5 wide. 5 wide. That means 5 linemen, that's it. The Bucs ran a 6-man front. They didn't call a tight end in. They didn't call a running back in. So they have 6 men on the line of scrimmage. And you have 5. And they were floored that they got blitzed. Well, what the hell are we doing? That 4th and 5 might have been the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. They ran a jump ball to a 175-pound wide receiver in the back of the end zone versus an all-pro safety. That was the play call for 4th and 5. Dallas Goedert run a 7-yard in route. Perfect route. 7-yard in route. Had space, had a 1.5 yard separation. Hit him with the ball, first down. It was embarrassing. But this is not a Philadelphia Eagles show. So I will not continue. I just need to get that. I need to get that out. It had to get out of the system. So we're going to move forward. We got to recap all of the playoff games. So let's start with Cottrell's Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. I don't know if that was like Ohio State on Ohio crime, but CJ Stroud, Timothy Stroud, my guy was unreal, dicing up a top 5 defense in the NFL, made it look easy. Cottrell, give us your thoughts on the game. I felt like it could have been a little different. I felt like the first half was called very one-sided. I'm not trying to be on Cottrell's side, but the second half, Houston made sure there was no questions. Like, I almost imagine DeMeco Ryans going in there at half and being like, hey, guys, they're going to think the refs helped them win this game, so let's make sure they can't think that way. And then came out in the second half and just dominated. What were your thoughts on the game? What were your thoughts on Flacco and the entire Cleveland Browns defense, who, listen, they weren't the only top 5 defense in the league that got lit up for 40+, but we'll talk about the other ones. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, biggest thing for me is that, I think Kevin Stefanski summed it up perfectly after the game. His quote was, "We picked a bad day to have a bad day," and I think that's 100% right. Obviously, Flacco, you knew what you were getting out of him. He's the gunslinger. He's going to throw the ball down the field, and he's going to have some turnovers. I mean, it happened in every game that he started at quarterback for us. He turned the ball over in every single one of those games. And so for him to throw not just one, but 2 pick sixes, the first one being at a time that they were down 10, defense came out and got a stop beginning of the second half. And to throw that pick six when, really wasn't needed, could have thrown the ball away and really gave yourself a shot to it at minimum pick up a first down. But even if you don't get the first down, you got a good shot at getting 3 points there and turning that to a 1-possession game. I think that really, put the Browns behind the 8 ball there. And then the second pick six was really the straw that broke the camel's back. And, you talk about the defense not being great in that one. They 100%, got lit up in that game for sure. That first half was absolutely, abysmal as far as, the defense is concerned. But I do think that second half, they looked a lot better, coming out of halftime. I think Jim Schwartz made the right adjustments. It just so happened that, the Texans defense scored 14 points and kind of made the score not really indicate how the defense looked in the second half. I do think, that first half, I can't give them any excuses. Greg Newsome, he's played great in the slot all year long. He got torched a few plays. Ronnie Hickman had been a player who, he was an undrafted kid, but at the same time, he was, throughout the season, as far as safeties goes, the weeks that he'd been playing, he had been the 4th highest graded safety in the entire league. But again, this is a kid that went to Ohio State, and I almost felt like CJ knew, hey, this is what Ronnie Hickman's strengths are, and this is what his weaknesses are. And we need to exploit those if he's back there in the secondary, because it looked like they were attacking him pretty much every time they could with the deep shots. But got to give CJ all the credit in the world. I mean, even without Tank Dell and without their weapons offensively, even Noah Brown's on IR now, he still went out there and there was never a doubt. You heard all this noise going into the game about how bad he was against man coverage and how much he struggled. But in this game, you could tell that they made it a focus and they had the game plan to beat man coverage. You talk about it with the Eagles and the Bucks. The Texans came out with a great game plan, knowing exactly what the Browns were going to run. So got to give them the credit in the world. That was a game where it felt like Cleveland was outcoached. They were outperformed, outmanned, everything under the sun. But at the end of the day, I think Kevin Stefanski summed it up best. They picked the absolute worst time to have a bad day.
Well, the last week of the season, they didn't play any starters, so I'm not counting that against them. And the 3 weeks prior to that, they gave up 17, 20, and 22. I think most defenses in the NFL would sign up for that. That's an average of 19.5 points a game that would lead you top 5 in the NFL. So that's what I don't think that they gave up a ton of points. But Shally, your thoughts on the Browns versus Texans? I don't know, man. Like, let me ask you a question real quick. And maybe do you think the Browns played that game differently because they were behind by 10? Because I'm not, guys, and I'm not here to just there's at least a 7-point swing on a terrible call. That game's 17-14, the Browns get the ball back. They could make it 17-17. It could be 21-17. the game gets played differently. I'm not saying the Browns would have won the football game, but like we texted in the group chat immediately. It was a terrible call to give the Houston Texans a first down. And then 2 plays later, what do you know? They get the holding call, and then they get the big crosser route to Dalton Schultz for the touchdown. It was a 4th down. They're off the field. Did you feel like that being down by 10 like was really a detriment for the Cleveland Browns team as a whole?
Me personally, I would say no, only because I think they had the same game plan going forward. Even being down 10, I know you got to press and try and get points on the board. They were still in a position where they could have run the ball. They still could have, done whatever their game plan was coming out, and they were moving the ball effectively. The matter of the fact is that Joe Flacco threw a bad pick 6, and regardless of if the score was tied, if it was, the Browns
do you think
were
he's
up,
throwing like that if the score's tied?
I do. He had 40 plus attempts in, the majority of the games that he's been at quarterback. So I don't think anything changes there. I just think that, they felt like that's where they could exploit that Houston team. You saw in the first matchup, they played Houston. Obviously, I know CJ didn't play, but Amari Cooper went for 265 and Flacco had 300 plus yards. So I think they felt like they had matchup advantages within that Houston secondary. So I do think they still would have been throwing the ball as much as possible. But again, just picked a bad time to throw the 2 pick 6s.
That's fair. Chow, your thoughts on the game?
No, I kind of agree. I think when that call happened, I think it's early enough in the game where you're not ripping stuff out of the playbook and being like, hey, we're going to plan B already. I think it's, and to Cottrell's other point, which is true. I mean, they came out in the game throwing the ball. I think that's what they wanted to do. They were doing it with a pretty good success. They couldn't stop Houston. I mean, I think that was the most surprising part to me. I think you got to give Houston's offensive line a bunch of credit to really slow down that front 4 of Cleveland. Myles Garrett was, quiet a lot of the day. They gave CJ Stroud time to throw. And that kid has announced his presence on the biggest stage. I don't think it was the surprise that for me that Houston won. I think it was the biggest surprise of the weekend in how they did it. I think between this and obviously the game we're going to talk about maybe next, but they look like a dominant team, and I think some of what Cottrell and Kevin Stefanski, I think that's spot on too. I think they picked a really bad game just to go out and have a dud. And unfortunately, being a professional athlete and, it happens. And sometimes it happens at the absolute worst times. And that's what happened in Cleveland this weekend. I still think Cleveland's a very good football team. And then on top of that, they showed glimpses like they were going to get back in the game, and they were moving the ball. And then, the pick 6s were just daggers, man. That is a demoralizing thing to try to come back from.
I can't use that as an excuse anymore, Mike. They haven't had Chubb since week 5. I get it.
No, I mean, listen. Nick Chubb is however you slice it, a top 3 all-world running back. The dude's a stud, but they had at this point they adjusted enough and were playing really good football. They were still a lot of people's dark horse team to make a run in the AFC because of the defense.
Yeah,
Houston just showed up and outplayed them. And you have to tip your hat to them, and it sucks for Cleveland. It sucks for Cleveland because you have Chubb go down and then Deshaun Watson goes down. You pick up Flacco off the couch, and Jerome Ford was nice and spelling as being a backup, and and obviously they brought Hunt back, and and you go through all this and you bond as a team and you build all this momentum, and then like you said, you just kind of go out and have your dud game, and unfortunately it just happens in the first round of the playoffs. It sucks because it sucks when you rally a team that way and fight through all that adversity, and then kind of get to where you were fighting for, and then that happens. But
I was going to say the crazy thing about it is I don't agree with Michael, of course, having Nick Chubb would have 100% helped. That's not why they lost the game. But to that point, though, I do think even myself, I was so caught up in the ride and things like that. When you're playing with that group of backups, eventually you're going to have a bad game. It's just bound to happen. And I was hopeful that it wasn't going to happen there. I was hoping it happened, later on, or we could ride the whole train to having a bad game and someone else also having a bad game that same day. But this was something. I mean, it's just something that's bound to happen. You're going to have a bad game when you're playing with that group of guys with that many backups in there. But like you said, Bill, got to tip your hat to Houston. They came in with the game plan and they executed it flawlessly.
All right, let's move on to the Peacock game. 23 million people tuned in to Peacock, the most streamed televised event ever.
Still lost 10 million from the first game, though.
I agree with that.
That's a big number, man.
But for them to get as much money.
16 million probably unsubscribed from Peacock already.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's still the most streamed game of all time, so got to give them credit where credit's due. We'll talk about the game for a little bit. I don't think anything happened interesting in the game that was something that I really wouldn't expect it already. I thought the Dolphins came into the game hurt. I knew the game was going to be one-sided for Kansas City. I think we all picked Kansas City on the show. And when we did that, I think we all understood 0-degree temperature, to his arm, hurt Dolphins, wasn't a good mix. Anything surprise you? Because that game did not surprise me one bit. It was like the most vanilla ice cream game ever. Like I knew it was going to happen.
I'm not going to say there was stuff in the game specifically that surprised me, but the one thing that I do want to give credit to, obviously, I do think that playing in those elements is a detriment to that Dolphins offense, but the way that Chiefs defense looked, like they played very good defensively. I'm not going to say it surprised me because they've been playing good defense, all season. It's probably the best defense that Pat's played with since he's been in Kansas City, which is, I think that's huge for him, especially not having the normal help that we're used to seeing him have out there at receiver. But I think the one thing that did surprise me, though, was the Chiefs defense playing as well as they did. I didn't think the Dolphins would be moving the ball phenomenally or consistently or anything like that, but I do want to just give credit to that Chiefs defense for sure.
Credit where credit's due. Anything that surprised you, Shally?
No, I wouldn't say surprise. I think it's like you said. I think that the end outcome, I think, was exactly what we thought it was going to be. I would say, if anything surprised me a little bit, I thought Miami kind of gave up on the run game a little bit too early. But other than that, I mean, it just gets to the point. I mean, it kind of like even, like we just talked about the Cleveland Houston game. At some point, you get too outmanned to where it becomes you just can't cover it up. I mean, debatably, they were down their three best defensive players. Those conditions were not great for Tua to throw the ball. I mean, some of the throws were hilarious. He takes his big wind up and then just kind of comes out like a puff ball and will go like 20 yards. He was having trouble gripping the ball clearly. And that's part of it's part of the NFL thing, man. I mean, it's you fight for home field advantage for a reason. Because if not, you might have to go play somewhere like that. That is a warm climate offense. And if they don't figure out how to start getting home field advantage, you look at a lot of teams that are going to battle in the AFC for the next 5-6 years. You're still going to have to go to Baltimore. You're going to have to go to Cleveland. You're going to have to go to Buffalo. You're going to have to go to Kansas City. Those are not warm places in the winter. So I don't know if that's, I don't think you can get rid of a quarterback for that specific reason, but it's just another thing that goes against Tua.
Is Tua the guy in Miami? Is Tua the guy in Miami?
Yeah, why?
No, I'm saying, is he the guy?
No.
I don't think he is either.
I don't think so, but I think they've had enough success where it's going to be really hard. I guess the question becomes this. Who are you getting that is definitively an upgrade? Because I think that's the way you have to sell it. Because if not, I think if you look at, you led the league in passing yards this year, I believe. I think you look at it with the success they have, and if you say, okay, if you say Chubb doesn't get hurt and, Howard doesn't get hurt in this, maybe it's a different game and they don't falter down the stretch. It's tough. I mean, can you, Mike loves them. So, I mean, is it something as simple as Mike just saying, hey, we're getting ready to Tua, but who are you bringing in? And I think that's where it gets tricky. I think you could be able to say you're bringing in somebody that is a definite upgrade to Tua.
Yeah.
I mean, I 100% understand that sentiment, but The problem is you don't want us stuck, and I know we're going to go to this game here soon. You don't want us stuck being the Cowboys of the AFC. Like, you don't want that to be your ceiling where, your quarterback can play great, at times, but then other times you can't rely on him to go win you the big one. Like,
fair.
You even see situations like, Jordan Love. Like, I think, and of course it's the same game here, but Jordan Love was a guy who sat behind the guy in Green Bay. I know you don't have as much time because Tua is going to be due for a new contract here shortly, but I almost wonder, like, do you get the guy in waiting and just have him sit behind Tua for a couple years, and then once that time comes, you just give him the keys?
I think that's tough though, because they're in a win now window, and I think that is where.
Yeah, Tyreek said he's done after next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, he keeps getting people pregnant. He's going to keep playing. But I think, again, that team is in a win now mode. I don't think you can give away a couple years where, I agree completely with your Jordan Love point, but I think that was also it was different because you did have Aaron Rodgers in front of him, and it was also we think that window's coming to a close. Whereas in hindsight, maybe after this weekend, maybe it's not, or maybe it's reopening, or maybe they're just overachieving a little bit right now, and they're going to continue to build around him. But I don't think you can.
I think the Jordan Love hype. I'll get into that when we talk about the next game.
We'll get into it, but
I think that hype is so ridiculous.
I just don't think.
I heard somebody recently that said they wouldn't take 5 quarterbacks in the NFL over Jordan Love going forward. Well, I'm like, are you out of your friggin' mind?
I just don't think you can get rid of.
Did you not forget a month ago when he lost to Tommy DeVito on Monday Night Football? Am I the only one that remembers what happened 4 weeks ago? Because he looked good. By the way, whatever. Next game on the docket. Might as well talk about it. The Cowboys got absolutely pulverized by the Packers, and Jordan Love looked great. Here's the issue with the game, and I know you guys seen it. There's not a lot of other people that seen it. What did the Cowboys do differently in that game that they haven't done all year?
They ran more zone coverage that game than they probably have all season.
That's my point. You have 2 of the best cover corners in football, and they ran zone all day. Deron Bland, Stephon Gilmore are 2 of the top. Isn't one of the best combos in football?
I understand the sentiment. I am so low on Deron Bland. I think you saw what Romeo did to him. I know a lot of it was in zone, but I think he is what we saw from Trayvon Diggs a few years ago, where he makes the good plays and he's gonna get the jump on stuff, and he could take any interception to the house. But he's also a guy who's gonna get beaten coverage every single time you hit him with a double move or you give him something that's not straightforward. So not a big Deron Bland fan. I know he got all pro because of the interceptions and the touchdowns, but I don't think he was a top 2 cornerback.
I know, but what we're doing right now is I literally just told you that an all-pro cornerback that had an all-pro year this year is one of the better cover cornerbacks in football. And we're getting off the topic that they ran man all year and they were top 5 defense just to argue over your opinion over an all-pro. That's not where I want to go with this, bro. They ran man. They run a matchup man. It's basically a zone man. Whatever zone you're in, you're picking up that man all year. And for whatever reason, they just switched it up versus a team that does not have elite wide receivers. You would think that would be the team that you'd run man against. I don't know, man. I watched that game, and Jordan Love made some throws that were great, and they were awesome to see. But they didn't look like, to me, that looked like, I don't want to say it this way. They look lucky. Back leg, threw a ball up and hit a guy in stride. It didn't look to me like this was something he was doing all year. I've watched the Packers play all year. It looked like he had the game of his life. It didn't look to me like he was just this all-world cornerback. It looked like he was playing above his head. That's probably the better way to put it. And I don't want to trash the kid. I just don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and he's getting labeled 5 or 6 after that game. It's insane.
It's a mixture of a lot of what you just said. I think you go look at Green Bay, and I think you could say they're the opposite of the Cleveland Browns. I think they played their best football game of the season against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I think you mix in, the defensive issues they have. Stephon Gilmore looked lost. I've never seen that man play like that ever since he's been a pro. He was terrible. I think you have to tip your cap to Green Bay too.
In the first half. He didn't have a passing yard the entire first quarter. Not one.
I'll get to Dak in a second. Aaron Jones did something that pretty much nobody else could do all year long as well. They couldn't stop him. I mean, he was ripping off 8, 7, 9, 12, 15-yard runs. They couldn't stop him. And they forced him into a lot of, it forced in, it forced the Cowboys to gamble a lot of things. You're talking about like the throw off the back foot throw. I'm not going to say it's lucky he threw that ball with intention. Is it a little bit, maybe a little out of character, like you said, that hit the guy perfectly in stride? Yeah, sure. You could say that. But, that's where he was trying to throw the football.
I didn't want to say like lucky. Like, I feel like lucky is the wrong word. But I felt like it was just like, it's not anything he's done all year. And if I'm being completely honest with you, it's not great fundamentals. He's throwing off his back foot. It looked like it was.
You know who he looked. You know who he looked like while he was doing it.
He watched a guy do it for 3
Look
years
at
in front of him.
No, he looked like Aaron.
No, he looks like Aaron Rodgers.
Off the back, floating
the one camera angle they showed it from, like if you would have blocked out the jersey number and like the face and everything, so you knew it wasn't Aaron Rodgers, you would have thought it was Aaron Rodgers.
With the flip too, right. Like it was text. Like I feel like he. Obviously, I know we hadn't seen it all year long, but I feel like he knows deep down, like Aaron taught me exactly how to do that. Just like how we saw Zach Wilson in the preseason and how he looked. Like I feel like Jordan Love had that confidence in that game, and I do think that Jordan Love played above his head in that one. But we also seen Jordan Love play in some really good football games. Like this is the same Jordan Love that beat the Lions on Thanksgiving and looked great while doing it. Same Jordan Love that won on Christmas Eve, looked great while doing it. So like I think Jordan Love steps up to that moment. By no means do I think he's a top 10 quarterback, but with this really being the first season fully under his belt and things like that, I think Green Bay has a lot to build on with him for sure.
I agree.
And I think he's shown you that he has the arm talent to be very successful in the league.
It's exactly what they were hoping they got when they drafted him. Now, does he have to work on his consistency? Yeah. The bright lights were on, played an amazing game in Dallas. Same thing with Thanksgiving. You brought the Detroit Lions game. Nobody thought they were winning that game in Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. Went in there, killed Detroit. And then, for the 2 weeks after that, he looked terrible. He's got to work on his consistency. But like I said, he went out and had the game of his life at the biggest moment. We'll see what he does this weekend. But all that being said, it's not why Dallas lost. Not. I'm telling you guys for 18 months, the man is what he is. He is what he is. He stinks. He's a 13 to 15th ranked quarterback on an extremely talented football team, and he continues to bring them down. I don't even care about Mike McCarthy. I don't care about any of that stuff. That team will not win until they have a different quarterback. You can bring in Bill Belichick. You can bring in Jim Harbaugh. You can dig Tom Landry up. You can bring Jimmy Johnson back in. It's not going to matter. When the moment is the biggest, Dak doesn't shine. He falls apart. Gene already brought up the good point. He didn't have a passing yard in the first quarter. Then he threw 2 pick sixes. That man was terrible. Terrible. I will tell you this. I know how bad and how split and divided the fan base was over Carson Wentz. It is crazy to me that this man has done this. He's now 2-5 in playoff games, and how he continues to blow games. And you still have half the Cowboy fan base defend him to the death. He's a top 10 quarterback. He's this, he's that. He's not. He's a 4th-round draft pick for a reason. They thought he got lucky because he came in and had success behind the best offensive line in the league with 3 great wide receivers and 2 great running backs and a stud defense that's continuing to get better. He's not a good quarterback. He is average. He is the definition of mid. That team will continue to do what they do until they get a new quarterback. I don't care who coaches. I don't care who plays defense. I don't care who blocks. I don't care who runs the routes. I don't care about any of it. Dak Prescott is the person that needs to be replaced in Dallas. Not the coach, not the GM, not the owner, not the cheerleaders, nothing. It's Dak Prescott. He stinks. He is mid. That's it. He's proven me right again.
You're right. But I can't put that game all on Dak. Dak is a reason they lost. He's not the reason they lost. The reason that team lost that football game is because of defense that finished in the top 5 in the league played awful. And I mean terrible. Let me just see something real quick. I just want to, just for the fun of it. Let's go start. Touchdown. They got a punt. Touchdown. 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 They got a punt. Like, I'm not kidding with you, bro. This is literally the play chart.
I know. I watched the whole game.
How does that happen? Now, granted, some of the drives were shorter. Like one was 93 yards. 10 plays, 93 yards to go up 20-0. Talk about a kick in the teeth, right? And then Dak throws the pick 6. But then you get in the second half. Dallas comes down, kicks the field goal, makes it 27-10. They go 5 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. Then Dallas comes down, scores a touchdown. They go 3 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. Like, I get it. I think that the biggest difference in the game was the Cowboys' defense looking absolutely awful.
The biggest momentum swing in that game was when they could have got it to within 1 possession at the end of the first half, getting the ball in the second half, and he threw that pick 6. That was the game. When they went up 27-7, that was
got it to 20-7. It was 20-0 when he threw
20-7. They get the ball in the second half.
Yeah.
Come out, you score there.
I get it.
It's 1 possession game. It's a completely different game. They're going to call the game differently. Jordan Love's going to feel the pressure. Jordan Love felt no pressure in that game, and that's part of the reason why he could play the way he did. He could throw the ball over there because they were just never close.
And I think the other point too is that Jair also had an interception before that as well. So it's not like, Dallas defense obviously played terrible, but you hand them 7 points and then you essentially hand them 14 points, because I know Jair's ultimately didn't get called a pick 6. They say it was down by contact, but having the Packers be that close, the way that defense was looking anyway, like, that's basically gift wrapping 14 points there. So I think Dak was the start of the problem. Second half, he got his shit together and he looked like an NFL quarterback. He looked like how he looked throughout the regular season.
Because the pressure was off. And I firmly believe that. Like, the pressure was off. They were down 20 points. He's like, I'll just go out there and spin it. But, like, when the pressure was on,
it was too late.
100%.
It was over at that point. Game was over.
All right. Well, we can't. Listen, as much as I'd like to take the whole show talking about how Dallas Cowboys have faltered, we'll talk about coaching at the end of these playoff things and see. I think that Dallas and Philadelphia might be looking for new coaches, whether they be coordinators or head coaches. We'll find out in a couple of days. I do want to move on to the Sunday night game, which was the game of the wild card weekend. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua. They're going to be good for like 10 years, man. Well, Matt Stafford doesn't have 10 years in him, but like,
there you go.
But Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua is a combination that looks a lot like Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua, if he can stay on the field, that kid's going to be an elite wide receiver if he keeps a quarterback like Matt Stafford around, because that combination looked incredible. I don't want to take anything away from Detroit. That atmosphere was insane. I loved it. I loved playoff football at Ford Field. I cannot, in a million years, understand how so many things went wrong on one play to Puka Nacua and none of them got called. That was the game, man. I'm not blaming the referees, right? Because I kind of am. You watch that football game and you see that, what was it, like a 3rd and 14 play, and he threw the ball to Puka, and there was holding, and there was defensive PI, and there was a freaking late hit on the quarterback. It was insane. Nothing got called. I felt like Detroit came out on that game on fire. Their offense couldn't be stopped. The Rams were matching them. Second half, defenses took over, man. They took over. And I felt like that the Rams got that game kind of taken away from them. I really do. Like, I love Detroit, and I'm kind of rooting for them. Them in Buffalo. Give me a team that's never won the Super Bowl. I'll watch those two play the Super Bowl. I'm with it. I don't think they deserved it. Am I wrong?
I would say you're wrong only because I think Dan Campbell outcoached McVay. I think you can look at spots. You could look at spots. That sequence in general. Like I agree with you there. Like I do think the late hit. Well, not even late hit, but roughing the passer should have been called there. Aiden got him clean, but then the other guy who came from the other side and cleaned him up. I do think that should have got called there. But at the same time, I also feel like in that game, in that second half, there was the Rams had an opportunity where Sean McVay wasted 2 timeouts because they couldn't get out the huddle in time and get up to the line and snap the ball. And you saw it come down to, Detroit, second down. They ran the slant to Amon-Ra, and it was a first down. And, the Rams didn't have any timeouts left in that game. And it's just other plays like that situationally where, I didn't necessarily love the play calling. It seemed like, McVay didn't have anything for Aaron Glenn's defense in that second half. Aaron Glenn clearly went into halftime, made his adjustments, and McVay couldn't scheme anything open. And this was a Lions defense that had been struggling in the secondary pretty much the entire season. So I put a lot of the blame on McVay. I think the Rams should have scored more points here. And even the drive before they gave the ball back to the Lions, they had the ball in plus territory on the Lions side of the field, and they didn't get the ball in the field goal range. So I agree. There were some bad calls there that I do agree with, Eugene, but I put a lot of the blame on this game on McVay for not either making the adjustments after half and just bad clock management and things like that.
I want to take a second before Shally goes to give Raheem Morris and Aaron Glenn their roses. Okay, both defensive coordinators made halftime adjustments. I want to read this out to you guys. I had this prep. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, 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 punt, end of half. That was the first half, 38 points. You guys ready for the second half? Punt, field goal, punt, field goal, punt, punt. Sorry, kneel. That was that second half, 9 points. 38 points in that first half, 9 in the second. Give those defensive coordinators their roses. They made a great halftime adjustments, and I agree with you. I think Dan Campbell Ben Johnson having the moxie to call those 2 passing plays, the one to Montgomery and the other one to Amon-Ra St. Brown, that won the game, right? You weren't getting the ball back. 2nd and 9, we're not running it again. We're running it. We're not running it again. Slant to our best receiver. We're getting that first down, and we're going to the next round of playoffs. Shally, what are your thoughts on the game?
I mean, I agree with a lot of what you guys have already put out there. I mean, I do think that the calls matter. I think it's I think the NFL and these referees either need to. They're going to say it's kind of like hockey. You go to playoff hockey game in the last 4 minutes. If you don't pretty much smash somebody across the face with a stick, you're not getting a penalty call. They either have to decide they're gonna call it like that. If it's not egregious, they're not gonna let it go, or they got to stay consistent. I mean, you saw the BS with the Super Bowl last year with the Bradbury tug. Everything that happened, in that last drive there for the Rams was way worse than that. That could have been called in Detroit. Every single one of them. I think also what affected McVay in the play calling in the second half. He lost Kyron Williams. They lost a little bit of faith in in the running game after he broke his hand. He actually had surgery today. So it's I think that factored in a little bit as well. They got a little pass happy. And McVay's a big balance guy. He's a big balance guy. He's a big play action guy. And he kind of lost some of that. And you got to give Detroit credit, like you said with the defensive coordinator. I think he knew they weren't going to run the ball, and he got real aggressive, up front, letting the guys go up front, and then playing defense behind them. So it was a great game. I would say that game didn't disappoint at all.
No, by far our best game of the night, whole weekend.
It's like anything else. You wish certain things didn't overshadow the play on the field and what the players did, but it's been a common theme for the last 2-3 years. I mean, it's the officiating is a problem. And I don't know what's going to be addressed. I saw a couple cool things like, what the officials should have to have a press conference after the game. I think that would be great. Or it's, you got to start suspending people.
They got to pay them more though. It's the truth, right? It's $1 billion corporation. You got to pay these officials more money to get the best talent out there. I'm not trying to be rude when I say this. They shouldn't have to work a second job or be able to be in a position to where Vegas can bribe them.
I don't think they have to work a second job. They make they make six figures for sure. They don't have to work a second job. They just have the time to, so they do.
Because they only work 16. Bro, if you're making $200,000 a year, and you work 16 days a week, and the NFL pays for your travel. Yeah, you're working a second job because you want to. You don't have to.
I get it.
These guys are making a couple $100,000, dude. It's got to be better.
I'm telling you right now, if you get the best officials in the world and you start paying them $500,000 a year instead of $250,000 a year or $200,000 a year, you will not have to worry about these things. You're going to have people signing up to droves to be NFL officials instead of like throwing out these 70-year-old officials that are still calling games, man. I just don't want to see it.
It's part of the union, but greed leads to greed, dude. I mean, it's Vegas and those type of people are never going to run out of money if they want to bribe an official. They'll find the money.
This is true. And I think the other thing too is that, you talk about these old officials and, them making six figures. I know plenty of people, like younger guys that know the game, that go be an NFL official. You give them $80K, pay for their travel expenses, they'd be perfectly fine with that. So
You're
again,
right.
The union and all that stuff.
You're right. The union's a big problem with it. Guys, I want to start a petition. I want to see if either one of you guys will sign it. Can we please get rid of Wild Card Monday? Can I go 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday, the way it should be? Yep. Wild Card Monday is stupid. Now, granted, I understood why the Pittsburgh-Buffalo game had to get moved to Monday because of weather and the circumstances that happened. Wild Card Monday is stupid. Right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to play a team on a short week on the road. I don't think it makes any logical sense. The Buffalo Bills get to stay home, but they're playing a team with basically a day and a half more rest because they had to play Monday because of snow. I understand that. Let's talk about Buffalo versus Pittsburgh. I kind of want to piece these next two games together, and I can't because we got to kind of break down the Eagles situation and the monumental collapse that they had. But the reason I wanted to piece these two games together is both games were kind of blowouts. They were kind of blowouts. Like they were close for a little bit. There were times where you think the losing team could get back in the game. Pittsburgh just showed fight. They showed, they're not going to quit.
No,
they needed a really big.
One time the teams don't quit,
and that's the point. That's what I want to get into. Pittsburgh had no business winning that football game. I don't think they were better anywhere. Like I don't think there was a position on the football field, maybe safety, that Pittsburgh was better than Buffalo. And they're playing in Buffalo, and that Buffalo Bills fan base, got to give them all the credit in the world, bro. Give Bills Mafia all the credit in the world. Great fan base. Another level. The way they shoveled out that stadium, you got guys with no shirts on sliding down the rails and sleds like it was insanity.
They left snow in the visitors' bleachers. Like, it's just great.
I love the Buffalo Bills fan base.
And the best part about it, too, was that after you got your tickets, they said, hey, it's open seating. So if you get to the stadium first, there was some parts of the stadium that were blocked off. But for the most part, you get to the stadium first, you pick where you want to sit. Like, that is awesome. First time it's ever happened in the NFL, ever. Like, that is
credit too, man. That field was in perfect shape for that game. You got to give those guys credit. I mean, those guys pretty much worked 2 days straight to get that field ready.
And I don't want the awful conditions.
And I don't want to take too many. Like, I'll take the only shot I'll take is, and I'm shocked none of you guys are using it, is the Buffalo Bills not paying the people to remove the snow more than $20 an hour. Like, basically gave them $20 an hour and a hot dog. Or like we being for real right now. Like, that's what you were paying people to come shovel. Oh, well, we'll provide the shovel. What? Whatever. I don't want to get too far into that. But I knew what was going to happen in that Buffalo-Pittsburgh game. We have games to preview. I don't want to waste that much time here. Any thoughts that you want to add to that game before we move forward? Because we're going to preview Buffalo in a minute.
The only thing that I want to add in, because I keep seeing it on Twitter and I'm tired of seeing it, Josh Allen did not do a fake slide against the Steelers. That was not a fake slide. It's not even close to being a fake slide. You could even see it after he made the stutter step. There was a defender from the Steelers that flew in and just completely whiffed on the tackle. No one thought he would slide in there. It was just awful defense by the Steelers, and I'm tired of seeing it everywhere on Twitter.
Anything you want to add to this game?
No, I mean, I think that it's another game that kind of went exactly how we thought we were going to. Buffalo was just better. Pittsburgh was, I'd hate to say it, happy to be there. Played tough, typical effort you would expect from a Mike Tomlin team, missing their best player in TJ Watt. They went up there and did their thing and played hard. And, Buffalo's just hot right now on top of everything else. So, it's that game was pretty elementary.
I don't know if what Bill is saying is accurate.
Is he saying that's like official? Like,
I don't know if that's official or not. We'll talk about that later. But
Dallas is not making a head coaching change. McCarthy is returning for the 2024 season, per sources. Adam Schefter.
Hate to see it, but you love to see it at the same time.
All right, well, let's move on to the last game of Wild Card Weekend before we preview some really good football teams. I've never seen an NFL team tackle as poorly, be as unprepared, not understand how to pick up a blitz like the Philadelphia Eagles did on Monday Night Football. That was an embarrassment of a football game. And instead of going through the football game, we can literally look at the just Tampa Bay drop passes. That game should have been way worse than 32-9.
Oh yeah,
that was
50. They could have scored 50.
And that game to me lies 95% on the coaching staff. I leave the 5% there for Bradbury because I feel like that the amount of money that he gets paid, he needs to be able to run with a wide receiver down the sideline. He needs to be able to make an open field tackle. But these guys were not prepared. They were not coached well. It was a terrible – guys, Cottrell, what level of football did you play? I know you were friends with – high school football. Did you remember your high school coach? And I played freshman football. I didn't play anything above that. Do you remember your high school coach explaining to you what a blitz beater was?
Yeah, we definitely had our fair share of them.
I don't want to be rude when I say this, but and I'm not like this isn't like Gene could beat Ronda Rousey in a fight. I could have coached a better offense than Brian Johnson did Monday night. That was brutal. Guys, it doesn't take a genius to see when there's 5 wide receivers and the Bucs have 6 people on the line, you got to pull somebody in for protection. Like, what the hell are we doing? They're running friggin' go routes. First cover 0.
Well, I mean, there's 2 parts to that. It's either A, like you said, you have to bring somebody else in to match numbers, or B, Jalen has to check into something that has hot routes in it. Not, hey, they have an extra guy, we're not going to block it, and you guys are all going to run 12 yards downfield before you turn around and look for the football. One of the 2 have to change. One of them.
It looked like he was surprised that the blitzer was in the backfield. They're all standing on the line. What am I watching? They're all standing. He's like, there's somebody coming in. There's somebody here. Oh, wow, I had no idea.
At a point, though, you knew exactly what Tampa Bay was going to run. And there's a lot of situations where I definitely blame Jalen for not checking or bringing in the protection or changing the protection. But there's also times where, after the first or second time that Tampa Bay did it, Brian Johnson knew 100% that they were coming out, they were going to zero blitzes, and that's just what it's going to be. And he still called the exact same plays. And like I really want to know what Jalen's leash is, how much of the full play control do they give him? And then I also want to know what Brian Johnson was thinking in calling these plays. It 100% matters. If they say, hey, don't audible this play.
It doesn't matter.
We like the numbers that we're
capable of doing it, and that's part of this problem.
So you're saying that he's not capable of bringing in a tight end or a running back to block.
Did you watch the game? Did you watch that game? Have you watched the last 4 weeks when everybody figured out just blitz Jalen Hurts because he doesn't check out of it? Watch the last 4 games.
If he's not allowed to, what is he going to do?
What do you mean he's allowed to? He's allowed to. He doesn't see it all the time. That is part of the problem.
It was clear as day yesterday. He definitely saw it yesterday. So
that's why it brings. So how is that on the OC?
My point. I don't know how lenient they are with Jalen Hurts.
Well, once again,
I know high school quarterbacks
hold on.
that check
whether they're lenient or not, there has to come a time after maybe 4 drives or 5 drives or 6 drives where the coach is like, okay, no more leniency. What are you doing? Like, what are you looking at? And I don't, and I still believe that's on coaching, because coaching has to prepare you for what you're looking at. I don't even think, I thought Brian Johnson was terrible. And I don't even think that was the most egregious thing I watched during that game. How many Eagles defenders ran into each other? I remember Ricks running into Avonte Maddox running into Ricks. I remember Morrow running into Byard. What about the 3rd and 3 play on the first drive of the game? Bradbury has the guy tackled for a 1-yard loss. Kevin Byard comes up. Avonte Maddox trips Byard. Rashad Wright runs around all 3 of them and gets a first down. I've never seen so many ex-professional football players. Dan Orlovsky, Ray Lewis, guys that know the football game because they've played it, just laughing at what the Philadelphia Eagles are running. It was so indicative when you seen the Monday night crew all predicting the game to go to Buccaneers' way, because they knew that this Philadelphia Eagles team was lost. Ray Lewis talking about tackling inside of a cone. A lot of people don't know what that means. Like, you have to cone the person in front of you. You have to circle them to make sure he doesn't have an escape route. The Eagles' angles defensively are embarrassing. That is just something I can't live with. The effort defensively to tackle. It's not, you can't tell me that these guys don't know how to tackle. They got to the NFL. They understand what form is in tackling. That was an effort thing, tackling. It looked like they were all playing individual defense. Ray Lewis said it perfect. I'm embarrassed of my football team, but why I'm happy of why I'm embarrassed of this football team is sometimes you need to get embarrassed in order to show you what you're watching, to understand that these coaches are inept and you have to make a change. If there's an effort issue, who does it fall on? If there's an effort issue, who does it fall on?
It's twofold.
The head coach. If there's a culture issue, who does it fall on?
Culture's head coach.
If you do not know how to pick up a blitz, if you do not know what to do in a situational defense, if you do not know how to play team defense, it falls on the coaching. There's too many holes in the boat to say all the players are bad. You can't just say, oh, they all stink. You can't say that. They all don't stink. Going into this year, Cottrell, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you not say, did Bill not say, did I not say the Philadelphia Eagles have the most talented roster on paper walking into the season?
For sure.
So if you have the most talented roster on paper walking into the season, and you make you have a collapse like that, it falls on coaching. That's it. We could talk about Jalen didn't play well, or Bradbury didn't play well, or Morrow didn't play well, or the line didn't play well. It's too many things. It's coaching. That's why my profile picture is Fire Sirianni. I need new culture. The culture is broken. And I don't care how many people, listen, I'm not falling for the Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox shit. I'm not doing it. They do it all the time they stick them for everybody because they're team players. Oh, Nick's a great coach. And what are you talking about? Let him go. They did it for Doug. They did it for Chip. They did it for all of them. They did it for Carson. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I know what I watched for a month and a half. That team needs new coaching. Agree or disagree?
I'm not going to disagree. I'm going to disagree with some of the other stuff you said, but
okay.
I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be upset because the rumor is they're going to get rid of both coordinators because it looks like Howie wants to bring Nick back and whatever. But we'll get into that once that becomes official. I don't agree with you. I mean, I don't disagree with you that coaching's bad. But the problem is you don't know what is coached and what's not, and then what is falling on the players and what the players are not doing. You've looked at, now I will say a lot of this falls under culture. You looked at, A.J. Brown doing certain things on the sideline, and reporters are saying it's this, and then other people are saying it's that. You saw it with Dallas Goedert getting in Jalen's face. There's apparently a lot of that already going on in regards to him missing things. He's missing things. Is it coaching? Is it Jalen? Godfrey just put up his stats against the blitz. They are horrifyingly opposite. His interception to touchdown ratio is backwards when blitzed. It's the other way. He had 15 interceptions this year on top of all the fumbles. He turned the ball over more than he threw touchdown passes this year. You cannot be an elite quarterback making elite quarterback money and have a year like that and look like a deer in headlights when you see a blitz and not know when to check into something or bring Goddard in the block or miss Goddard, like Gene said, when he's over the middle 7 yards downfield with nobody around it. So is a lot of it coaching? Yes. A lot of it's on the players. I'm not blaming Nick Sirianni for James Bradbury playing like a pussy on Sunday or Monday. I'm not. There has to be effort. There has to be heart. There has to be pride. It has to know that you're playing football, which is a physical freaking sport. And when you hit people, it hurts sometimes. That's why you get paid $20 million a year. That's part of football. If you don't want to do that, retire and go home. You're not playing in this city. You're not going to play in this city in front of these fans playing that way. A lot of it's coaching. I think we all agree the coordinators stink. I think we can all agree how important Shane Steichen and what's-his-face were last year. I think we can all agree Nick Sirianni's got a lot of holes in his coaching. A lot. I don't think he deserves to be back here next year. I don't. But I'll tell you this. I think you saw, I hate to say it, I'm not saying we're there yet because he didn't have a terrible year, but Shane Steichen was really important to Jalen Hurts.
100%.
Really important.
What's
really
the
important.
The coach.
Really important. Yeah, but it's also scheming things open.
Yeah.
Jalen is still right, but Jalen is still a one-read quarterback. You can't expect your OC to scheme somebody open for the first look every single time, and that's still what Jalen is. And it got exposed this year. Jalen looks at his first thing. If not, he goes to the right or the left, or he takes off. That's not elite quarterback play. We got away with it for a lot of other reasons for the last 2 years. Brian Johnson stinks. He's going to be gone, and that's fine. And good riddance. I'll pack your shit.
I hope he does go to Ohio State.
No, don't say that. Don't say that.
So what are you about to say?
But I was going to say, I mean, you see the clear difference in OC makes. Like, just look at the other conference. You saw what Josh Allen looked like when Ken Dorsey was on the sidelines, and then literally they fire him, and we're thinking that he's the scapegoat here. And then you see what Josh Allen looks like when Joe Brady's back. And then you saw what Josh Allen looked like when Brian Dable was there. So clearly, an OC that is there that can help their quarterback definitely matters. It's a night and day difference from how Josh Allen looked with Ken Dorsey versus how he looked with Joe Brady. We're talking about the Bills not making the playoffs, and he won't be the same without Dable. But now they got Joe Brady there, and he's looking like the quarterback that we saw a couple years ago that was battling Mahomes in the playoffs. So I do think your OC matters, and you need to bring in an OC. Regardless, this isn't me saying Jalen doesn't have his deficiencies, but you have to bring in an OC that's going to work with the quarterback to work through those issues.
So I don't disagree, but the difference is here. Even when Josh was struggling, watch how Josh was playing. Josh was still sitting in the pocket. Nobody was getting open because the play calling and everything else sucked, and then Josh was forcing balls into places he should have or doing stupid stuff like that. But Josh was still progressing through things like a quarterback. Jalen's still not doing that.
Here's the problem, though, Bill. And here's why I have to have Sirianni fired. Here's why. Okay.
I'm with you. Go on. Bye.
Well, follow me. Because if you replace the coordinators, this is what's going to happen.
They get plucked again.
Bingo. Let's just say we replace the coordinators with good coordinators and the Eagles offense looks great next year. How long do you think that coordinator is going to be here? You're literally putting lipstick on a pig. You're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. It doesn't work.
I get it, but every team has to do that, dude. That's not that
Exactly. Hold on.
Kyle Shanahan, but my point is Kyle Shanahan is an offensive guy that went to become a head coach. Nick Sirianni's not that, and we knew he wasn't that.
But even defensively, though, you look at like they lost Saleh, they lost D'Amico Ryans, and like every guy they bring in, they still have like the defense still looks the same.
I get it, dude. I get it. But they brought in Steve Wilkes, who's another great defensive guy. And look at the goddamn defensive roster, too. You can't use San Francisco as the example, dude, because that roster.
Let's use McVay as the example then.
We're talking about teams with good coaches. Like that's why you have to use those exambles.
Okay. Look at the Rams last year.
When everybody was hurt, they got healthy this year and they made the playoffs.
Everybody wasn't hurt last year, dude.
Cooper Kupp was out the entire season. Matt Stafford was out the back half of the season.
That's nothing to do with the defense.
When you have no quarterback play and you're not holding the ball on offense,
I'm not talking about results, dude. The defense they were still torched before all that happened.
Look, we got to move on because we have playoff games to preview and then we have 2 more topics. So let's get into our divisional round. We got opening Saturday afternoon, the Baltimore Ravens. They, 1 seed is beautiful to you, right? You get the extra day, you get the extra week of rest, and now you're going to get the extra day of rest if you win this football game. The Houston Texans are going to travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The spread is 9.5. Baltimore has been waiting for this playoff game, but I got news for you guys. The last time the Baltimore Ravens were a 1 seed, they were a 10-point plus favorite over the Tennessee Titans in M&T, and they laid an egg. Can Lamar Jackson get it done against the D'Amico Ryans-led defense, C.J. Stroud-led offense? I think this is one of those really interesting games. I'm not saying that Houston goes in and beats them, but I will be shocked if Houston doesn't cover this 9.5. I think this is a football game, guys. I think Houston goes into that game and plays them hard. I think C.J. Stroud plays well. I think D'Amico Ryans is a defense set up to limit Lamar Jackson. I really love the Texans plus 9.5 this week.
I agree with you on that. I think it's a lower scoring game than people think it's going to be as well. I think the thing that scares me a little bit is Houston got away a little bit with having a lack of, like, I'll say, a run game against Cleveland. Because they had so much, success through the air. Baltimore is equipped to kind of take Nico Collins away or at least limit what he does. That's where I get a little concerned for Houston. I agree with Gino. I think this is going to be a physical, trash-talking, great type of football game. I think this is going to be a really good game. I'm with Gino on this one as well. I think Houston plus 9.5 is a great bet. I think Baltimore's still the better team. You saw the news late tonight that they activated Mark Andrews, so it looks like he's going to play.
Wow. That's incredible.
So they get a weapon back there, But I'll say this, man. You watch Houston play, man. I don't know if anybody saw the clip, with D'Amico Ryans talking to what's his face, right? Like literally the linebacker right before they went back in the game. And he's like, if you see this is where Joe is 100% going with the ball. Like, be ready. It was right there to pick it. I mean, those guys love playing for D'Amico.
The Kirksey conversation?
What?
Was that the Christian Kirksey?
No, not Kirksey. No. He was talking to Harris, the guy who picked the ball off.
Oh, okay.
He literally came off the field, like, grabbed my helmet. He's like, come here, like, talking to him. Told him exactly what he was going to do, and he did it. It was just nuts. D'Amico Ryans is a great football coach. Everybody, on the show last year couldn't have, spoken any highly about him, how great it was. A great hire for Houston. This is just more proof in the pudding right here. Nobody thought they were going to make the playoffs, and they're going to Baltimore. And I think a lot of people think they have a chance to win the football game. So I'm excited for this game. I will say that this is one of the more exciting games for me this weekend.
I agree. I think there's not a lot of good games I really don't, but I think this is going to be a good one. Cottrell, what do you think about this one?
So I'm really torn with this one because I think every week that I think CJ is going to look like a rookie or come back down to earth, he just hasn't had that week yet. And I know, obviously, Tank hasn't played, for a few weeks now, and they just added Nico Collins to IR, and I think that's a not Nico Collins, Noah Brown. They added Noah Brown to IR, which is a huge blow for them as well because he was really coming on as the number 3 guy there, number 2 since Tank's been out. So I just feel like eventually like something has to give with that team, and this team has to look where they are because again, like Bill said, no one expected them to be where they are right now, 10-7, winning their division in the second round of the playoffs. So I think the most important stretch of this game is going to be the beginning. I think if Texas can come out and put up points on the board while Baltimore is still adjusting to that rust and having that week off, I think that'll do numbers for them. I think they can, come out and maybe steal a game. But if Baltimore comes out, they slow down that Texans offense, and they put up the first 7-10 points in that game, I do think Baltimore is going to take it. And that's really how I see this game going. Baltimore's defense has looked incredible all year. They've had sacks by committee. We've talked about Roquan. We've talked about Kyle Hamilton and, the seasons that they've had. Patrick Queen has also had a phenomenal year as well. I just think with what Baltimore's doing right now.
It's amazing what you can do with linebackers. Sorry.
Not wrong.
I think Baltimore's just going to be a little bit too much at home for the Texans.
I got a 23-17. I like 23-17 Baltimore.
I think you get them on the hook. I like 26-17.
I get it.
I'll go 24-17 Baltimore.
All of us have Houston covering, which means Baltimore by blowout. Next game on the docket.
Baltimore by 40.
Now, this is the game I think that's the blowout of the week. And I was wrong about the Packers last week, and I'm going to go right back on my ledge. I'm going to go right back on my branch. I think that the 49ers absolutely annihilate Green Bay this week. And I'm sorry, Brett. I love you. You're one of my favorite people in the world, and I was wrong about your team last week, and I'll stand up here and admit it. I think Jordan Love is getting way too much hype over that football game. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in football. I think the 49ers team is just built different. I think the 49ers roll in this one. I don't think this game's close. I got a 35-13 San Francisco.
I'll go 38-13 San Francisco. I think the same thing. I think they get up big, and I think they coast. I think Green Bay, they had their big emotional victory, and they're feeling great. They're going to play a different animal, a well-rested, healthy animal in San Francisco. Very aggressive, good corners. They're going to get a lot of pressure on Jordan Love. And then I think obviously Green Bay on defense is going to see something completely different than they saw last week. They're not going to get that out of Brock Purdy. C-Mac is going to be all over the place touching the ball. And then obviously you get Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo involved as well. I think this is just a whitewashing for San Fran. I think it's a little bit of like a scrimmage for them to get ready for the NFC Championship game.
I fully disagree with both of you guys in this one. I do think this will be a game. I like San Fran to win, but I think it's closer. I'm going 31-23. I think Green Bay is within one possession. And, I do think last week, again, Jordan Love played above his head. But I also think Jordan Love is a gamer. I think this Packers team, they're playing with house money in a sense. For them to just go into Dallas and, be as confident as they were, I think that says something. I think they're going to go to San Fran where weather's probably not going to be an issue. And I think they're going to go and try and do the same thing again. That San Francisco defense, just like we talked about Baltimore, they've been off for a week. So they got to get back into the groove of things here. And I think Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, big fan of Matt LaFleur, by the way, as well. I think he's going to put Jordan Love in great positions. They got to stay consistent with the run game, and they got to find ways to not put Jordan Love behind the sticks as much in those obvious pass downs. But I like it to be a one-possession game, but I like San Fran to win.
Okay. Don't need to stay on here too long. I think that we can move to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. This game I find very easy to pick also because I don't think the Buccaneers are that good. And let me not be rude to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They wiped the floor with Philadelphia. I just think Philadelphia is a beaten and broken team. I think what you're going to see when you see this football game is the public overvaluing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that the Detroit Lions have the recipe to be able to beat this football team. They're going to play hard-nosed football, and they're very good against the blitz, particularly at home. I think Jared Goff pieces them apart. I like the Lions in this one. I think the Lions win this game. Let me go. Here we go. 27-13.
I'm going to go Lions to win as well. I think this game sits right around the spread, though. I really do. I do think Tampa has enough weapons offensively that I think they can give Detroit a little bit of a, they can stay competitive and they can move the football. I think at some point you just have to tip your cap to Baker and he's playing good football. I mean, it's I don't think he's going to go in here and lay an egg against Detroit. Detroit is susceptible to the run. I think you'll see a lot of Rashad White. And I think to Gene's point, I think you're going to see a lot of the run from Detroit as well. They're going to run the ball against Tampa Bay just like the Eagles freaking should have, and they didn't. I think you're going to get a lot of David Montgomery. I think you're going to get a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs. And they'll mix that up with play action, and let Goff hit, St. Brown and all those guys, and take their shots when they can. But I think this is a game. I think it's a little bit closer though. Like I said, I'll go somewhere along the lines like 31, 24, something like that. But I think Detroit pulls it out at home. But I think it's a good game. Like I said, with Mike Evans and Godwin and those guys, I think they have enough weapons to exploit certain things that Detroit doesn't do well defensively. I think Tampa hangs in this game. I really do.
We're having a little bit of an issue seeing the Facebook comments. I do want to let you guys know. I want to read some of those comments out because there are some really good ones. Brett Gardapi says 31-25 49ers. I think Love shows out again, but the 49ers are favored for a reason and deserve to be. Alex Elmore says, of course you do, to Cottrell, saying the game's going to be close. Tiny says, if I hear one more person say the Browns did Baker wrong, 2 other teams got rid of him as well. Justin Louder says, Bucks win, mark my words. Kyle Edwards, Lions better not let the Bucks hang around. And Derek Dempsey says the Eminem's going to be dancing again.
So I agree with that. I think Eminem will be dancing again. I like the Lions. I like the Lions big in this one. I think this Buccaneers team is, they had the right opponent. An Eagles team that is, struggling to find themselves. And, I think this Lions team will show that Buccaneers team exactly what they're about. This is a matchup that happened earlier in the year, and the Lions held the Bucs to 6 points in Tampa. I think this is a game where you're going to see Dan Campbell exploit their matchups here. This was the first game back that Amon-Ra St. Brown had when he came back from his injury, and he had a lot of success in that one, and he was kind of on a snap count. So I got the Lions big. I think 31-13. I think this is a game where you see Baker Mayfield throw a couple interceptions in this one, and I think they ultimately have to get away from the run because they get down early. So I don't think they're going to have that success in the running game against the Lions. I like the Lions big, goes to the NFC Championship game.
As my favorite segment, tickets as low as $89 at M&T Bank. Tickets as low as $176 at Levi Stadium. Tickets as low as $145 at Highmark in Buffalo. Detroit, tickets as low as $502.
Yeah.
That team is behind their squad. Let's go. All right. This is, in my opinion, the main event of the evening.
Might have to watch this game on mute. Tony Romo and company in this game.
The Gobble Fest.
The defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, all-world quarterback Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, head into Buffalo.
Don't forget Taylor Swift.
By the way, this is really funny. Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game.
Yep.
Ever.
Wow.
Is that real?
It's real.
I mean, outside the Super Bowl, it's obviously not a road game, but the guy's never played in a visiting playoff game. When I heard that, I was floored.
It's been the one seed. He's played every game at Arrowhead.
That's incredible. Well, they're going to have to see if they can circle the wagons in Buffalo And we'll find out. Buffalo Bills are riding high. They're looking good. A little bit less rest, but they are staying home. I don't think the cold atmosphere will bother either football team. This is going to be one for the ages again.
Just like last year.
Mahomes versus Allen. What do you like in this one, Shao?
I'm gonna go with the Bills. I think this is. I think they're the hotter team. I know Kansas City won last week. I wouldn't call it impressive. I'll put it at that. And they haven't impressed me probably about a month and a half. I don't think they're playing normal, great Patrick Mahomes, type Chief football. I wouldn't say it's necessarily on him. I think it's a supporting cast, a lot of which we've talked about, numerous times during the course of the season. I think Josh finally finds a way to get it done. I think Josh finally beats his nemesis, when it matters. I think that place is going to be nuts on Sunday night. I'm going to go Bills in a squeaker. I think it's another classic, just like it was last year. I'll go 30-27 Buffalo.
I do not have the stones to pick against Patrick Mahomes. That's just the reality of the situation. I've seen this Chiefs team play all year. I think their receivers are going to ultimately cost them in a game, but I won't be the one to predict it. I think Buffalo, especially right now, they're hit by the injury bug as well. Defensively, they got a lot of issues. That linebacker, I think that's right where the Chiefs want them to have their issues. Pacheco runs the ball hard. I think Pacheco is going to be due for 90, maybe 100 yards in that one. I got the Chiefs winning. I do think it's a barn boner. Maybe it even goes to overtime, but I like 27-24 on a walk-off field goal by Butker.
Well, I will say this. I want to read some comments first. This game should be fire, Tiny. Brett Gardapi says Bills win 30-20, 3-point game, and the Bills pull away late with a touchdown. Derek Dempsey, Pacheco has a great game. Matt Godfrey, Bills. Tiny Williams, Bills. Matt Godfrey, the Bills beat the 0-3 Eagles. Bills offensive line, healthy, played together all year. Tiny says, no balls, Cottrell. And I will go with nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. I'm rooting for two teams that have never won a Super Bowl to make it to the Super Bowl. Give me the All Blues. Give me Buffalo versus Detroit. I want it. I'm going to root for it. Give me the Buffalo Bills. Give me Josh Allen. Give me Joe Brady. Give me James cooking in the kitchen. I'll go Buffalo. I don't forget a score. 30-23. Nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills.
They're going to have a fight if that's the Super Bowl, who gets to wear their blue jerseys.
I will. I think the Bills should go to the whites, man. The little whites with the blue racing stripes on the shoulder, a little old school Eric Moulds action.
Did they ever play a Super Bowl in the whites? I know that because I know the Norwood game they were in their whites in that game. I think I have to go back and look.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope that happens, but I doubt it. But that's okay. That's what I'm rooting for. I'm going to root for it, and that would be incredible to me. I want Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. I'm rooting for them. Their fan base is incredible. I was a Bills fan when I was growing up. They were my AFC team. I used to root for them because when I was growing up, they would always play the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, and they would get the shit kicked out of them. But I would root for Jim Kelly and the K-Gun and Thurman Thomas. Well, I'm back on the Buffalo Bills train. Bills Mafia, you have an honorary member. I'm wearing my blue for you tonight. Let's go, Buffalo. Even though they have the worst fight song in the NFL. Like, it's the worst fight song, whole NFL. Like, you couldn't steal the rendition of Shout. Like, if you guys didn't hear this already, the Bills fight song is Shout. Yes, the wedding song, Shout. I'll sing it for you. The Bills make me want to shout, throw my hands up and shout. Literally, the Bills make me want to, and then the whole song Shout. That's their fight song. It's terrible. It's okay. I'm sorry, Chase. Chase said I broke his heart. It's not that I don't want to see Andy Reid win another Super Bowl, but I want the Buffalo Bills. Bills Mafia, man. All right. So let's move on. We got a little NBA talk. Just a quick trade to break down. Pascal Siakam is on his way to Indiana Pacers. My question would be this. Indiana's been one of the funnest teams in the NBA to watch. Like, they're scoring at a phenomenal pace. I feel bad for Bruce Bowen because he just signed there this offseason. He's getting shipped away with a couple first-round draft picks over to Toronto. Bruce Brown, not Bruce Bowen. Jesus. But Pascal Siakam to Indiana. How much does it move the needle? I'm sure it'll help them defensively, 100%. The length of him will help. But I don't know how much it moves the needle. But I love it. I love the growth that they're going to make. You got Halliburton, Siakam. I love my guy Matherin. I like the team. I like Indiana. They're fun to watch. They're fun to root for. I think this makes them more fun, more interesting, more intriguing. I love that they're going for it. I'm a little like the Pacers are like my second Eastern Conference team I'm rooting for. Like, I know the Sixers will choke in the second round. Maybe the Pacers will help me out. What do you guys think about the trade? Toronto's obviously rebuilding, kind of blowing it up. What do you think about the trade for Toronto, Indiana?
Go ahead, Control.
So for me, I think this trade, for what Indiana wants to do, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think this is their time frame where they feel like, hey, if we're going to make a move, we have to do it now while we have Halliburton and we have this roster playing as well as they are offensively. You talk about Matherin, Miles Turner is there, and
Buddy Hield.
Buddy Hield's another guy, sharpshooter. Like, they have a ton of guys that can put the ball in the basket, but in this situation, they really don't have a bona fide, or they didn't have a bona fide number two. And I think now you bring in a guy like Pascal Siakam, that could be your guy. You talk about the what he adds defensively. I think what he adds offensively matters too. You're going to have more pick and roll action with him and Halliburton. And, I think that's going to open the ball up more for these shooters in Indiana as well. In terms of moving the needle, though, for a championship, I just don't see how this team competes with the Celtics or the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. Like, I just don't see it. But I love the move. I love what they did. And I know they gave up 3 first-round picks and they gave up Bruce Brown. But the reality of the situation is first-round picks really don't matter in the NBA. This is going to be a playoff team. It's going to be the back half of the first round. And they gave up 3 first-rounders. So even if this is a rental for them and Pascal doesn't decide to sign long-term, I think this is a great step in the right direction for them, because just seeing how this team has success this year, that might even trigger some guys in the future to want to come play with Tyrese Halliburton in Indiana.
By the way, Brett, thanks for the stars. Appreciate you, brother. He also said, since Cottrell picked against the Bills, we should be able to put him through a table next week on Wire2Wire if the Bills win.
Wow.
Tanya will do it.
Kyle Edwards says, doesn't move the needle at all. Brett also says it doesn't move the needle, and now you have to pay him the max in the offseason. But there'll be tons of fun to watch.
You don't have to.
And then Alex Elmore says, I really like the Pelicans this year as long as Zion stays healthy. Derek Dempsey, Sixers all the way. Pacers can kick rocks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it makes them a championship contender, but I think it keeps them out of, I think they're definitely a team that stays out of the play-in now, and I think they're capable of winning a series, maybe depending on who they get in the first round. But again, I think you're showing Halliburton and all those young guys there that you're in it to win it, and you're willing to make moves to try to improve the team. I do agree with Cottrell, though. I think his defense and his offense are equally as valuable. I think he's going to make them better on both ends of the floor. I agree with you, though. I mean, I don't think I don't even think it beat the Sixers. I mean, I don't think they can contend with the top 3, but I think they get right in there in the middle with the Knicks and Cleveland. I think they're just as good as those teams. I think they can finish in that 4 or 5 somehow. I think they can win a series. I don't think they're going to beat the top 3 in a series, but at least gets the fans excited. And like I said, you're building, you're doing the right thing and showing your fans that you're willing to do the right thing and build in the right direction.
I will say too, the other thing though that I do want to add, while I think the Bucks and the Celtics are more talented, you've really seen that the East has been wide open. And I know the Celtics have made their moves, but like last year, the Sixers could have beaten that Celtics team in a series. We
Not this year.
saw, I know, I agree, but we saw this Bucks team, falter in the first round to the Miami Heat. And I know, injuries played a part and things like that, but you just never know what could happen in the playoffs. Like, leading up to that matchup, injury could happen, or, there's just chemistry that's not there after the trade deadline. You just never know. So I got to give Indiana their props for at least going for it, because again, if they fall into the right spot, and maybe the Celtics and the Bucks have to play each other before the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe the Pacers find a way to sneak into the Eastern Conference Finals. You just never know. So got to give them the credit for at least going for it.
I like the move. I think it's going to be fun. I think it'll be interesting to see how that team plays out. We had to address it. It's obviously big news in the NBA. Pascal Siakam is traded. There should be more trades that come down the pipeline. I'm almost sure the 76ers will make a move. I think they're going to end up eventually bringing in Zach LaVine. I think that's the guy that they'll end up bringing in. I'm not going to tell you whether I like it or not until I really just kind of study it a little bit more. But I think there's a lot more moves to be made. I think this is the first of many. I think it'll be a very active trade deadline this season. And we'll obviously talk about NBA a lot more in the upcoming weeks, but we got to get into college basketball, guys. College basketball has been too good to not talk about. And like, we've really kind of I don't want to say dropped the ball, right? We haven't really dropped the ball. There's been a lot of things to talk about, but this college basketball season has been incredible. There's three things I'm sure of when I look at college basketballs throughout the whole, the landscape of college basketball. Number one, Kansas is a really good basketball team. Number two, UConn is a really good basketball team. And number three, Purdue is a fraud. They are not winning the NCAA. I will pick against them in the friggin' round of 32. I think Zach Edey is a fraud, and I think he's soft, and I don't care how big he is. I think when tournament time comes, you're going to see a soft-ass guy that won't be able to hang with true bigs that come tournament time, and I think they'll end up losing early. I think UConn looks great. I got to give them credit. I think Kansas looks like the best team in the country. And I think North Carolina, got to give them credit. I called them a sleeper. I didn't put them in my Final Four. I went back and looked, but I was really close. They were like a team to look out for. They're right there. I love the way North Carolina's playing basketball right now. Got to give credit where credit's due. We all bashed North Carolina last year when they had that great team that just didn't get it working. We're like, oh, North Carolina's got to make changes here, and there. They made a couple moves, a couple guys out of town, little addition by subtraction. North Carolina looks ready to rock and roll. Guys, your overall thoughts on the college basketball landscape, any teams we should be looking out for that are maybe under the radar, any teams that you think we should be talking about?
For me, I would say, just real quick here, a couple teams I don't even want to say under the radar, because they're ranked. Utah State's having a phenomenal year so far. They've got a couple good wins under their belt at this point. And I think this is just kind of I'm going to pile up some teams here, but that second tier in the Big 12 is going to be phenomenal. Like, you have Iowa State and BYU just played a great game a couple nights ago. Kansas State, obviously, is playing good basketball. Texas, like we've talked about Kansas already. Baylor's always going to be there. The Big 12 is, in my opinion, I think right now, the best conference in college basketball. They've been playing great basketball, and I think depending on where some of those schools fall, they may be able to make a run in the tournament, just because I think all those teams are going to be battle tested because the conference has been as strong as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. The Big 12 is by far the deepest conference this year. You didn't even mention Oklahoma, Oklahoma
TCU,
State,
Texas Tech.
There's a lot. I mean, Kansas went on the road to UCF and got beat. I mean, if there's one thing I would say, I agree with Gene. I think UConn and Kansas have shown when they play well. I would say they're the cream of the crop this year.
Yep.
But both those teams still are a little bit inconsistent. I think this will be just as, we got a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we got a month and a half and then some to go still. But I think this is going to be one of the more wide open tournaments we've had in a long time. You got Kentucky, North Carolina still kind of hanging around. Kentucky's always, you always kind of see what Kentucky, where they're at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year with Calipari coaching young kids. Big Ten's kind of all over the place right now. Pecking order there is kind of not really set in stone. I think it's a really down year for the ACC, minus the top 2 or 3 teams. I think the ACC in general is down. It's a crazy year, just a crazy year. There's a lot going on this year. And you guys still got to see who's going to come out of the Big East, along with Connecticut and all them.
And I will say this: I think the Tennessee is the team to look out for too. A lot of people kind of jumped off the Tennessee bandwagon when they had the 3 straight losses. But looking back at those losses now, it was Purdue, Kansas, and North Carolina. I don't think those are losses. And every one of those games were games, right? None of them were blowouts. They lost by 8 to North Carolina. They lost by 9 to Kansas. They lost by 4 to Purdue. And they've really handled business versus everybody else they've played. I mean, they beat the crap out of Ole Miss the other night. I think that Tennessee's a team to look out for. I think they'll eventually get it together. I think that they'll eventually be able to take on, some of the top teams in the country. But man, I got to give credit where credit is due. I did not think UConn would be having such a run like they're having now. They've looked incredible. They blew out North Carolina earlier in the year. Gonzaga, who was top 10 ranked, is on the bubble. They don't even look like they're going to make the tournament right now. UConn smashed them. They're really handling business over there, UConn, and they're beating the crap out of Creighton again tonight. So give UConn their roses. UConn's looked great. It's a lot of really good college basketball teams this year, and it's wide open.
I think the one thing too that I do want to add in. Normally, I'm behind you with the Purdue bandwagon. I always think Purdue is overrated. I think they look different than how they've looked in years past. I know they're still feeding Edey the ball, and their offense runs through him. But I think they have guys on the perimeter at least that can create their own shot and kind of get to their spot this year. I think Braden Smith has taken a step from last year, and I think that Purdue team will not be the team that doesn't make it out the first weekend. I think that's a Purdue team that I could see going to the Sweet 16, potentially the Elite 8, depending on how it all falls. I don't necessarily want to be on the wagon that they're frauds this year because I don't think that's the same case with this team.
Well, the one thing I think that they did that I thought was really smart is Coach Ryan Walters brought in 3 guards to surround Edey. So they essentially have Big Edey, and then they have 3 guards to surround him. They've kind of ran it's funny. They've run it's very Villanova-esque offense. But what they've done is they've basically used the center as the flagpole. And they throw it into the flagpole, and the flagpole gets double teamed, and he kicks it out to a guard. I feel like he's going to fold, man. And it's just, when I watch him play, I just see softness. And it's the same softness I seen when I seen Chet. And Chet has obviously turned into an NBA player. I don't think Edey will ever turn into that. I just feel like he's soft. And every time I watch him, I feel like if you hit him, honestly, this sounds terrible. He's a guy I would probably get an early tee versus, elbow him in the gut. I don't know, man. Maybe I shouldn't say that about a college kid, but the point I'm trying to get at is if you be physical with him early, you can really get him off his game.
I think there's one team that we haven't mentioned. And then from out west, I mean, Gonzaga, we brought up Gonzaga, how you said they were on the bubble. Told everybody to watch out for St. Mary's this year about winning that conference outright. I think they're going to. But the one team nobody brought out from the Pac-12 is Arizona. Arizona is very good. They are a team. They stay healthy. Watch them at the end of the year. They end up getting Caleb Love. They can put up points quick. I've watched them twice now. Outside shot, they get a 1 seed. If not, they're going to be a 2 seed. They're going to be a 2 seed that nobody wants. 1 seeds will not be happy if Arizona is your 2 seed. But they are capable of making a run and making some noise at the end. So watch Arizona as well.
I'm telling you right now, I think Arizona wins the Natty this year. That's they're my pick for the Natty. Preseason, I had on my Final Four. I know they've lost 4 games, I think, at this point in the year. They only had 1 bad loss now to Stanford. Inexcusable loss. Yep. Can't say anything, give them any excuses there. their other losses have been close games that they just were on the wrong side of. I love Arizona this year. I love how that starting lineup looks. They have the experience. They have experience all over that team. Arizona's the team I'm picking to win the national championship this year.
Okay. Well, I'm not getting into my natty picks. I want to get more information. I want to get more just overall information going forward. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Out of curiosity, do you guys have your Final Four picks?
You talking about the preseason ones?
Yeah.
Or right now?
Just to give everybody like the preseason ones.
Oh yeah. Hold on, I got you.
I didn't keep mine. I know I picked Kansas as one. I know I picked Michigan State as one. Arizona actually might have been one of mine. I'm not sure. The only two that I know
Arizona
for sure,
was one.
The only two I know for sure that I picked though were Michigan State and Kansas. But I do think Arizona might have been one of them. I don't remember my fourth.
I went back and looked mine up the other day because I thought I picked North Carolina, and I didn't. So give me 1 second. I can find it in hopefully a second.
I feel like Duke might have been my fourth one.
I know I had Duke. I know I had Arizona. I know I had Kansas. And then I think my fourth one was Kentucky.
We did that the show after the NBA. We did like early November.
Yes. I mean, if you don't have it, that's fine. I just wanted to see if you did, then we could have just, gave everybody an update. Like, I don't think we had any teams that have fallen off yet. Like, I know last year I had North Carolina in my Final Four, and we knew that train had gotten off the rails by January.
I mean, Michigan State kind of sucks.
Kind of lost, man. I thought I had it. I don't.
That's fine.
Wait, is that it? Yes, I do. I had Kansas, Marquette, Tennessee, and FAU with UNC as my sleeper.
FAU is not.
See, actually, I feel like FAU is in one of mine now. That might have been my fourth team.
They're still in it. I mean, they
are. Like I said, I know Michigan State was one of them though, and they suck. So,
all right. Well, let's get in this little UFC action. We got a pay-per-view this card. It's 2 championship fights. UFC 297, Strickland versus Duplessis. Raquel Pennington versus Mayra Bueno Silva, both for titles. We're going to start with, before we get into that, I always ask this question, and I'll ask you guys again. Is there a fighter or something on this card that you're looking for outside of the 2 main events?
Anytime Arnold Allen is on a card, I am locked in.
I hate you.
Arnold Allen is my guy. So I'm locked into that one. I'm an Arnold Allen fan. And I know he's going to put on a show on this card. Probably one of the only shows that we see the entire card. Yeah,
I don't. It's not a great card, but there is 2 championship fights on the card, so we got to talk about it. We got to break it down. We're gonna try them all until we try them all. Kidding. I like Arnold Allen also. That's the person I was going to talk about. I kind of wanted to. I used that as a platform to bring him up, but you already stole it from me, so I appreciate that. Anyone else, Shally, that you like?
No, I mean, I think Arnold Allen's if you know who he is and you've seen him fight before, he's kind of the guy that sticks out like a sore thumb in a good way. The other fight with Neil Magny and Mike Mallet, I mean, I know there's a lot of Neil Magny fans. I don't think he's going to win that fight though. But I mean, I think Arnold Allen is kind of Cottrell kind of summed that up nicely and said it in a nice way that, I mean, he's probably the most exciting guy on this card.
By the way, Derek Dempsey, we are doing a bracket thing, like bowl thing. I forgot to fill it out. I need redemption. We got you. And then Kyle Edwards says, you keep saying give him a hard foul early. You're just saying that. And he also said, can I get BC to make a tournament? Jeez. No, you're not. Probably not. But all right, so let's get into the card. Let's get into the main 2 fights. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Raquel Pennington. How do you see this fight going? Cottrell, I'll start with you. I see this fight as clear as day, right? Like I have no doubt who's going to win this fight. And
So for me, I think Mayra is the next one up here. I think Raquel Pennington is, she's a good fighter for what she is. I don't think she's championship caliber, Mayra Bueno Silva has looked great in her last few fights. Most recently in July, she choked out Holly Holm, and at that point I knew she had deserved a title shot. Came out afterwards that she had tested positive for something. So I think really that's why they waited so long to make this particular fight. Obviously with Amanda vacating the belt as well. That's also why we're here. But I like Mayra by submission in this fight as well. I think it goes second round. I think she dominates that first round as well. Doesn't have enough time though to get her down to the ground. But I like her to submit her in the second round.
I will go Mayra as well. I think she's a better fighter. Cottrell was going to say everything I want to say. She's her last 3 fights, she's looked great. Obviously, the Holly Holm incident, got turned over, but it was she tested positive for pretty much what ended up being her ADD medicine, which she's never had an issue with before. So I think that's kind of why that went away very quickly. She's just a better fighter. I think she's a better all around fighter. Raquel is obviously a very tough fighter. I think she's a little bit one-dimensional. I like submission as well. I'll go to the third round though, so I gotta have something different from Cottrell.
I'm not going to. I already have it written down. I have Mayra by second round submission. Raquel Pennington's best overall fight was her 5th round getting knocked out by Amanda Nunes. Like, this girl is not great. She's got no signature wins in her career. 8 years ago, and this is the funny part about Raquel, 8 years ago, she beat Jessica Andrade by submission, and that's like her staple. Like, they still show highlights from it because Jessica Andrade is where she is at now. Jessica Andrade was not where she is now 8 years ago. I'm just sorry. I don't want to trash Raquel. I think Raquel's done a great job to earn where she's at. But Mayra Bueno Silva is a championship caliber fighter. Raquel Pennington is not. I like Mayra. I like her by second round submission. I think you should throw a couple dollars on it. I think it's a really good bet. It's probably at like plus 500, plus 600 for the round and the submission. No debate. I guess we'll just stop. Let's move on to Sean Strickland versus Duplessis. Cottrell, your guy Duplessis is in this fight. Are you going with Duplessis here?
Yeah, I am. I like Dricus to win this fight as well. I think Sean Strickland is a guy who, again, good fighter. In reality, I mean, I think he's the Raquel Pennington of the middleweight division. He found a way to get the belt. Like he stole it off of Izzy, but in reality, he's just the middle of the road guy who was a good fighter, but he's not championship caliber. And I think the UFC wants, Dricus to ultimately win this fight as well. I know Izzy said he's taking some time off, but I think it'd be hard to imagine that they don't try to set up Izzy versus Duplessis like how they did, like they tried to do that before when Sean Strickland ultimately won the belt. So I like Dricus by decision. I think it goes all 5 rounds. I do think there's a point where he has a chance to stop him. But I think Sean Strickland's a tough guy. I know that Pereira knocked him out, but that's typically not what you get out of Sean Strickland. So I like Dricus by decision. I think it's rather dominant. And then you're going to see him call out Izzy, since Izzy will be in the building.
I don't think there's any chance. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that this goes to the decision. I'd be willing to bet whatever you want, anything you want, that this card does not go to decision. Duplessis has been in 22 professional fights. Just want to take a guess. How many went to decision?
Like 1, maybe 2.
7.
1. And it was the fight versus Brad Tavares. It was 3 rounds, and he absolutely wiped the floor at Brad Tavares. I'm surprised Brad Tavares got. Duplessis will knock you out, and if you give him your back, and if you pull guard, he will submit you. He is a well-rounded fighter. I don't see a path to victory for Strickland in this fight. I think Duplessis dominates him. I don't think this is a close fight. And Sean Strickland, and Duplessis can call out Izzy all he wants afterwards. The fight that needs to be made is Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus Duplessis after this fight. They told Khamzat if he won his fight, he would get a title shot. They pulled it because he didn't look great versus Kamaru Usman, who was the 170 champion for 20 years. I don't know. I don't like it. I want to see Duplessis versus Hamzat Chimaev. I don't want to see Izzy again. I want to see Chimaev versus Duplessis. It opens the division up. It gives us new title fights. That's what I want to see.
Well, Hamzat did hint at fighting at 300. So maybe if Duplessis doesn't take enough damage, a lot of damage in this fight, he could have a three-month turnaround and fight at 300.
Possible.
Shah, who you liking this one? Are you are you wrapping it up with us with Duplessis? We're all the underdog. Strickland's the favorite.
Yeah, it's small favorite, but yeah, I'm going to do Duplessis as well. I'll go 4th round stoppage, same kind of thing. Strickland is a really tough guy. I mean, for all his crazy antics, the crazy stuff that he says, he's a lunatic of a human being. But
absolutely lunatic.
He's kind of a straightforward guy. You know what you're going to get out of him. Doesn't do anything great, kind of good at everything. Duplessis, though, I think just has the well-rounded game to take care of him. I think eventually gets him on the ground. I'll say he subs him, but I think it's a good fight. I think it's going to be a little bit one-sided as well. I think Sean Strickland has a very, very bad habit of just kind of keeping his head in the same place and just taking bomb after bomb because he's got one of those caveman head. But I think over the course of the fight, Duplessis just wears him down and eventually stops the fight in the 4th round.
So you got 4th round stoppage. I have 3rd round stoppage, and Cottrell has decision. But we all have Drickus Duplessis to win the
4-1 decision. And I think the other thing too, with this fight, if you follow like the backstory of it, Strickland and Duplessis have their beef. One of the last pay-per-views, Strickland jumped over Gilbert Burns' family to actually try and attack Duplessis. Apparently, they've put that beef aside. There was an episode of Embedded. They were friendly, talking to each other. So don't expect the press conference to get too crazy. But there is that small chance that it does. If Strickland says the wrong thing, I know Duplessis will definitely go back and talk about Sean Strickland getting abused as a kid.
Oh my God. It's nuts. I think that Sean Strickland needs a microphone as far away from him as possible. He's must-see TV when he's talking because he says a lot of stupid stuff. But, man, to thank his father for abusing him as a child last time when it's just I can't. Not a fan. Not a fan. Hope he gets the belt taken from him. Anything else you guys want to talk about UFC before we move into You Gotta Be Kidding Me?
Dana's putting together a fire card for UFC 300. I know we're still a few away from that. 299 is also sweet. So we got some really good cards on the horizon here.
I can't wait for him because this one's not it.
Not at all.
All right, let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. Cottrell, I'll start with you.
So for me this week, my You Gotta Be Kidding Me is George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers for his post-game interview after his loss to the Bills. So in that game, obviously, we talked about some of the calls. We talked about the fake slide that's been going around everywhere, and was it a fake slide, all this stuff. So George Pickens is a guy who so far throughout this year, between the Steelers and the NFL, he's been fined $200,000. Clearly also a guy who has shown poor leadership on the field, not blocking when he's supposed to, all this stuff. And he wants to go to the media and tell them that it's impossible to beat the Bills when you're playing the Bills and the refs. If you watch that football game, the refs were not the reason why Pittsburgh lost. They were getting blown out. It was 20-0 before you could even blink. That Bills offense was moving the ball at will. Pittsburgh didn't want to tackle. I mean, there's so much more you can go into in that game. Now, I get it. Pittsburgh fought back. And, they ultimately made it a closer game than what it looked like it was going to be. But for George Pickens to go to the media after that game, after what I saw on TV, and say the Steelers lost because of the refs and it's impossible to beat that Bills team when you're facing them and the refs, is absolutely insane. So for me this week, George Pickens not taking any accountability for like the 15th time this season.
Come on, you got to be kidding me.
Great one. George Pickens is an idiot, man. You want to talk about why? Well, I don't know why wide receivers do this. I don't know why they're wired so differently, but there's so many of them that say a lot of really dumb shit. George Pickens is one.
I think it's also weird. Like, as hard-nosed of coach and Mike Tomlin is, it seems to be like the wide receivers on that team is where the disconnect is. I mean, you had AB to start it. Claypool, Pickens,
Deontay to an extent. Like we've seen him out.
Yeah, they did stuff with Deontay to be in there. It's kind of crazy.
You guys forget about Martavius Bryant and his whole.
That was the other one. That was the one.
He just likes smoking weed.
No, Martavius Bryant and Juju. Martavius Bryant was telling Pittsburgh reporters that he's the second best receiver on Pittsburgh, and that Juju's only doing so well is because the coverage on him and Antonio Brown. And he was talking about how he's better than Juju the year after Antonio Brown left, and that he was just seeing better coverage, and Juju was the benefactor of, like, literally his own teammate just trashing him. He's like, I'm the better receiver. I need to be seeing the ball more. Like, I'll never forget that. Juju's a nut too. They know how to pick him in Pittsburgh. They know how to George pick him in Pittsburgh. All right, Shally, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with the Indianapolis Colts and Jim Irsay. This is a little bit of a touchy subject, so I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. Back in December, there was a report out that Jim Irsay, was really sick and he was battling a respiratory illness and so forth and so on, and that's why he wasn't around the team and everything else. And then all the reports finally came out today that he had another overdose. Medics went to the scene and they had to revive him. He was unresponsive. They gave him Narcan, and his history with painkillers and prescribed medication is very documented. Addiction is a very it's a very hard thing to deal with and go through. It's a very real thing. That's not really what the issue is here. I think the Colts, for being a family-run organization that they claim to be, the fact that they just lied about it and covered it up, I think, is one thing. But I also think it's at some point, it's kind of twofold. Not that Irsay should necessarily, kind of be punished, but to some degree, I think you look at the way the NFL treats players for even smoking marijuana, or when they do something wrong, how the hammer comes down on them, and they're always supposed to put the shield first, and it's supposed to be the image of the NFL and this and that. Jim Irsay's got a really checkered past. You've seen other sports, you've seen Donald Sterling, lost the Clippers, deservedly so, because he got caught on recordings being, super racist and a bigot. I think it's crazy, at some point, and nothing's going to come from this. And I think some point it has to either turn the team over to your daughter, which is the succession plan anyway, or he's at least got to step away. There's got to be some kind of repercussions for him to, at least go get some treatment and really get better. But I think it's very hypocritical for the NFL to constantly come down to the players and bash the players and punish the players, both, with suspensions and financially. And just another kind of old rich guy just kind of walks around and does what he wants because he's an NFL owner.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Mine is an NFL reporter who will remain nameless. Was listen, I don't want to trash the woman. I don't know what she did to get to the opportunity she had to be asking a question to Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was asked in a recent interview how he's preparing his team for the cold weather of Detroit. It's supposed to be 13 degrees. You play in sunny Tampa Bay where it's 60. Are you preparing your team for the cold weather that they're going to face in Detroit? Only problem is Detroit plays in a dome. Todd Bowles kindly responded and said, well, the only time we'll have to be facing that outdoor weather is the 13 seconds in which the 20 seconds we'll be leaving the bus and going into the stadium. He said, nothing planned. We're playing indoors. We only have to be outside for 20 seconds getting off the bus and going under the thing, so we'll be okay. The Lions have been in a dome field since Ford Field's opening in 2002, where they previously played at the Pontiac Silverdome for 37 years, which was also a dome. Thus, any potential cold weather in Detroit will not be significant for Bowles and his team. Climate controlled, 70 degrees. I feel bad for the reporter for actually having to say that out loud, and I'm embarrassed for her, but for this week, it makes it really good.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, guys, it's another fun show. Lot to talk about. I do think it's hilarious that Coach Mike McCarthy will be back for another year. So the Cowboys are going to run it back. How about them Cowboys? Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, they're going to run it back. Hopefully Dan Quinn gets sniped. We'll just see that Cowboys team implode again.
And not that it's that big of a surprise, but Gerard Mayo basically came out and said that the Patriots are drafting a quarterback either at 3 or they'll move up to get one. So, again, not a surprise there, but either Caleb, Drake, or Jaden Daniels will be the next quarterback of the New England Patriots.
And they're all upgrades over Mac.
Facts.
I actually like Gerard Mayo's press conference. He said, I'm not Bill Belichick. I'm not going to be. I won't try to be. I'm Gerard Mayo.
No, I loved it.
I did too.
That's what you get hired for.
Yeah.
Get hired.
Did you hear that the New England Patriots offered jobs to both Bill Belichick's kids to stay on the staff?
That's
kind of funny though.
I thought that was really interesting.
I mean, I think that's a way to be like, hey, you know, it's not necessarily screw you. Like, obviously, we know you probably want to bring your kids to whatever job you get, but for whatever reason, if they don't get jobs there, they're still going to have NFL jobs with us if that needs to be the case. So I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's Kraft kind of taking care of family type thing there, so I don't have an issue with that. And Bill Belichick doesn't have a job yet either, so I think it's also very telling that, you know, they spoke with Belichick and a couple other people, and they stayed with McCarthy. So maybe that job is not attractive as some people would like to make it out to be.
I don't know if they spoke to Belichick.
There's a lot of reports that they did. We'll see though.
I'm sure Jerry called them at minimum.
Real quick, before we go off air, we have like a minute or two. Any coaching predictions, updates from where you're at last week? Anything that you think happens in the next week that you want to put out there on record?
No, I mean, I'll stand pat.
Jim Harbaugh comes back to Michigan. I want that.
I think I said the other day. I think either goes to the Chargers or goes to Michigan. I don't think he's going anywhere else, and I'll stay pat with that. I think he wants a decision quickly though, because I think at some point the people in Michigan are going to change the language in that thing and give him what he wants. And I also think if he goes back to Michigan, he's got to be able to get, you know, when the portal opens back up, to be able to like say, I'm definitely staying here. Here's my 10-year deal, and probably go after some of these people. So I actually think Harbaugh's going to be one of the first ones off the board one way or the other. He's either going to go to the Chargers or he's going to go back to Michigan. I think by this weekend, though, I think you see a couple of the positions filled now that more teams are eliminated and kind of more candidates are out there freely be able to interview.
I will say I don't know who I'll replace him with. I don't think Brian Flores gets a job this cycle. Haven't really seen his name in a lot of interviews and things like that. So I don't necessarily think he gets a job this cycle. I think Harbaugh is going to end up going to the first team that gives him the offer that he's looking for. The Falcons have already made it known that they're willing to trade 8 if that means go getting a quarterback, or they could stay at 8 and maybe drive JJ. Like I think Atlanta could be a position for Harbaugh as well, but that's just, you know, the two coaching positions, how I feel about it.
I will say I think it's really funny that the Las Vegas Raiders cannot hire Antonio Pierce due to the Rooney Rule. That is hilarious to me. That's how messed up that rule is. But thank you guys for tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, episode 171.
Got to shout out Kurt and Billy real quick. Cutting Edge Sports Apparel. New jacket. It's gonna be it's you know, we got to keep some stuff limited sometimes. We can't sell everything. This is gonna be the host only collection. So you will see everybody with jackets soon, but they did a great job. So thank you guys as always.
Great job.